Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. Today we're going to be talking to Wendy Burch and to Tim Cooper of the Siena Department, History Department, about a unique partnership they have where they interview veterans, an oral history project. So welcome. Thanks for being here, Wendy. This is about your 5th or 6th time here. You're becoming our...
Maybe more.
Maybe more. So this is called, well, why don't you talk about what this is, because and then Tim can come in about the Siena part about that.
Okay. Well, the Albany County Historical Association's been around now for 70 years, and certainly we don't have members that have been around when it first started, but certainly we had some members and board members and volunteers that have been around since the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, and we've been wanting for a while now to really sort of record their experiences with the organization. You know, it's getting to the point where some of them won't be around, you know, another 20 or 30 years, so we really want to get their impressions now of their experiences with the organization from the 80s and 90s.
With working with you down at the Tenbrook on the historic.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. At the Tenbrook Mansion.
I see.
And so we were kind of looking into ways that we could do that. And Tim and I hooked up a few months ago, and he was doing a class where oral histories was a part of it. And so we thought, hey, maybe this would be a great way for us to get what we wanted, and for the students to hopefully get some experience.
So Tim, how did you? So Wendy contacted you and.
Well, yeah, we worked through the academic and community engagement office, the ACE office at Siena, put Wendy's group and our class together. I've been teaching this oral history course for 2 years now, and this really looked like a great opportunity to give the students experience conducting oral history interviews, to get that kind of experience early on in the semester before they went on to interview veterans from the Vietnam War as part of our Testimonials of War project.
So yeah, what is it? Before we get going, what is this Testimonials of War? This is something at Siena that's
right. This is actually a project that was begun by students. It was really a student-led initiative, and it's had faculty support since its origins about 4 or 5 years ago now. And for the last couple of years, I've been working to build a more structured course around this project that will teach the basics of oral history, of collecting oral histories, using archive databases as the primary sources of historical research, and producing oral histories with those.
Now, is this a class, or can kids sign up if they want to just do this one particular thing?
The short answer is yes, it is a class. The long answer is actually we have multiple options right now. Okay. Part of the requirement for history majors at Siena College is to conduct 15 hours outside of the classroom of practical practice of history, if you will. And this class actually fulfills that because I work them hard. Yeah. They have to write papers. Attend classes they would a normal course, and on top of that, they have to conduct these oral histories, archive them. We'll be sending all the veteran interviews that we conduct to the Library of Congress's Veterans War Project archives, for example.
So every history major at Siena has to do these 15 hours in
exactly, and this is one way that they can fulfill it, either through my class or on their own independently by conducting oral histories. Yeah. And
then, so Wendy, you guys were looking for some way to have your members record their
right. And we've been partnering with Siena now for a couple of years on a couple of different classes, so it seemed like a good fit. You know, our mission is to preserve, promote, and present Albany's history, and so we kind of felt like this was a good fit for both of us.
So Tim, your students, so technically, they're down at the Tenbrook. This was sort of like a practice session for your students, kind of. Because
Yeah,
they're not being taught, they're not interviewing veterans per se yet.
Correct. You know, I'm trying to build a course that will kind of nest this whole thing in a broader oral history series of courses or learning experiences for the students. This semester in particular, we're focused on ultimately on the interviews of Vietnam veterans. But the long-term picture and my broader hope for this whole thing is a more inclusive oral history project.
So what kind of training do the students need for this? I mean, it's not really, there's a big difference between an oral history and an interview. Yeah.
Right. You know, the way we talk about it, the difference between that interview and the oral history is this archival record. You're either producing something to go into the archives for future research, or you're going to those archives and using interviews as primary sources for the same kind of historical research you would do with written documents or photographs, for example. That's really what separates this from a news interview.
So are there certain guidelines, or how do you train? I don't know if "train" is the right word. What are they looking for when they're going to ultimately be talking to veterans? I mean, they're not just going to say, "What was it like going to war?" I mean, what's
right? So we go through a series of steps. Both in terms of kind of in-class preparation, discussing, for example, the difference between memory and history and how those are different. We talk about the difference between, what makes an interview true, and so veracity becomes an issue when you talk about oral histories, reliability. So we discuss these types of things in class. We work with the Veterans Administration, talking about post-traumatic stress disorder and other issues that many veterans face. So we do that type of in-class training. But the great thing about this partnership was that we also get this hands-on training, the actual practice of conducting interviews. And that really, in my experience, is what brings the class to life and makes it most exciting for the students, is when they really get out there and get to meet people and talk with them. Then they're really making history, and they really
feel like
that.
they're not just in classroom.
Yeah, and anything to get out of the class.
So Wendy, when they came down, you were telling me you were there. What was the experience like as they talked to your members?
Well, first of all, they had come down one day before, earlier, a week or two before, and they got a tour of the mansion and some information about the organization itself so they'd be familiar with it. And then a Saturday in October, we had invited the members who were going to be interviewed and the class, and we had a little lunch beforehand, kind of as an icebreaker. And then they broke up into the groups, and they interviewed them for probably about an hour.
But this is still preliminary stuff, right?
Well, this was it. Once our members were there, they broke up into different rooms. They did that, and then I was able to go and see the finished products about a couple weeks ago now, I think, and it was very impressive what the students did. I mean, some of them, it was they would take like all of the interviews, and they kind of, when they were talking about a specific topic, they would have recollections from each of the members on that specific topic. One group made a website that included some of the interviews. So it was really.
So they filmed the interviews or the oral histories.
Yes, they filmed it. And one of the students actually had done so much research, I think, on the internet, just getting pictures and things of the Tenbrook Mansion and some of the other projects that were going on part of our organization, and he was able to weave that into the presentation that they gave. So it was really impressive.
And so were there different presentations or just one?
Each group did a presentation.
And how many groups were there?
3, 4?
We divided into 4 groups. 3 did kind of video presentations, and then 1 built a mock website using the interviews and posting for video clips of the interviews, but also photo archives, a timeline of the Albany County Historical Association and the Tenbrook Mansion itself.
So what kind of work did you have the students do before they went down there? Did you have them do
Well,
research about the Tenbrook and Albany?
Absolutely. They had to do that. They also had to, they had to do everything almost from scratch. So I really put it to them, gave them their marching orders, and let them produce the nuts and bolts of this. So everything from the initial questionnaire, the questions that we wanted to ask, we worked as a group to decide on what questions we thought would help us prepare our actual interview questions. So that kind of background research they had to do themselves. They prepared the questionnaires. Once we received those back, then they went to the next step of formulating the questions for the interview. We spent a lot of time in class talking about what makes a good, strong question, what's different between, say, a news interview and the historian's job, whether in that interview, whether you want to lead your interviewee towards something or dig for a certain answer, or whether as an historian it's really our job to kind of maintain a hands-off and let the interviewee just talk about what he or she wants to talk about. So this was a great experience for them to actually experience that firsthand.
Okay, so Wendy, you said there was 3 different presentations. Were they different topics about their days, or were they all?
They all used the interviews that they had taken with the, I guess I shouldn't call them interviews, the
oral history.
oral histories that they had taken from the participants.
But there wasn't like one presentation was a certain topic, and they were all. It's about their days there and their time there. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that this process you went through, do you think has made the students, when they ultimately do oral histories on the veterans, this will help them?
Absolutely. I mean, we after Wendy came and viewed their kind of final product for this segment of the course, we then had a chance as a class to talk about what we had learned from that process and how we might be able to take it to the.
But will you be following the same sort of when you get to the veterans? Ultimately,
In a sense, yes. In another sense, no. So for this portion of the course, the final product were group projects that they put together themselves. So we had 4 groups. They worked in tandem as teams. The final project for the semester will be more individual based.
Okay.
But in the same way that we did for the Tenbrook Mansion oral histories, all of the students will have access to all of the oral histories that they will collect from veterans. And then the task here as historians is really to make sense of those testimonies. That's, I think, ultimately what distinguishes an interview from an oral history, is that a historian wants to make historical sense from these primary sources in the same way that they would do for written documents.
So what would the role of the historian be in this oral history, any kind of oral history project? I mean, we see them all the time on PBS or whatever.
Right.
What is the historian's role in that?
Well, I think oral history has been characterized as history from the bottom up. I mean, we really do focus on individual narratives, individual testimonies, and I think our job as historians is to do due diligence and do justice to these stories by connecting them to larger, more thematic narratives, if you will, that help us make sense of bigger historical shifts and events in our history, whether it's the Vietnam War or the 1960s as a decade, or 20th century American history, if you will.
Now, did you have a part in any of the final editing, or what?
No, I left that completely to the students, and they really stepped up to the plate. It was we were very pleased with the.
So these 4 projects, Wendy, are they available to the public, or can people come down and view them, or are they online?
Yeah, I think we will incorporate them into like our website or things like that, so that that would be the idea, that it would be available.
And then what were some of the things that they talked about, your old members?
I know one of them. Actually, a couple of them actually, maybe all the participants talked about, we used to have a barn that was on the property of the Tenbrook Mansion, and this was several years ago, and it got to a point where the barn was not safe anymore to go into, but there wasn't money to refurbish it. And there was a whole lot of back and forth, and they ended up having to tear down this barn, which was really a historic structure. And it caused a bit of a rift in the organization, because there were people that, you know, were like, you can't tear down this barn. And then there were people like, look, neighborhood children might go in this barn, it might collapse on them, we have to do something. And so just you know, and here's a story that isn't necessarily, oh, look how great the historical association. It's a story. It's a real story of something that really happened. And so I think, you know, having that type of history recorded for us, I think, is important.
And then, how long did you say these oral histories are? Was each one like an hour long, or they shorter?
I think they were about 15 to 20 minutes each. Total.
The presentation.
The presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they talked to the actual participants for a while, so it was what they used when they did their presentation.
Right. So now, will you be doing more of this down there, do you think?
I would like
'Cause I know,
to.
Besides being a historical house with your events, you do have an educational component to your organization.
Yes, and I would definitely like to do that. In fact, you know, I've been talking to some people from different, like the Pine Hills neighborhood and things like that. They really want to start getting oral histories taken of neighborhoods and things too. So this is something that, you know, as long as people want to do it, and we have people that will do it, I think it's something that would be really good for the whole community.
Okay, and then I know you guys have you still have your archaeology school. And
We do
in the
archaeology
summer?
camp every summer, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm going to ask, so this is an ongoing, I'll wrap up on this and then we'll get to your holiday stuff down there. So your students are now prepared when you go out for the Testimonials of War, which is part of Siena College's history department.
Right.
So with some of these kids that worked at the Tenbrook, are they going to still be around next semester to go?
Yeah, we have, well, you've touched on a couple of things, kind of long-term vision for the Testimonies of War, for oral history at Siena College. Yeah, so hopefully this tie-up with Tenbrook Mansion will be fruitful in many other ways in the future, allowing for internships or people to do kind of volunteer work down with the Albany County Historical Association. So that's one kind of payoff we're hoping will happen. And in terms of the oral histories kind of moving forward, over the next 2 weeks we have interviews with between 6 and 9. We're still waiting on some confirmations to come in, veterans who offered to volunteer their testimonies for us.
So how did the students like this session, or whatever you call it, down at the Tenbrook? What did they?
We actually did a student survey, and I should share these results with you. We actually did a student survey as part of Ruth's, the Academic and Community Engagement Office. And the overwhelming response was very positive. They really appreciated the work that they were able to do. They appreciated the component of the course this semester. And so the students, I think, got a lot out of it.
They kind of felt like they were doing real history as opposed to the
absolutely,
classroom.
absolutely.
So very good. Well, then that's an ongoing thing at Siena, Testimonies of War. And so as long as you're here, Wendy, I'll switch papers here. This is the time of year, and Wendy's been here before. There's a lot of events going on down at the Tenbrook Mansion over the holidays, from December 6th all the way through till January. I'll read some. We won't go into each one, but we have a champagne preview party, holiday tea, the Christmas traditions, the open house on Saturday, December 15th. Saratoga Opera is going to be there again, and also the Helderberg Madrigal Singers and the 12th Night Dinner. So Wendy, why don't you talk about some of these, or all of them? Or it's all on Tenbrook, tenbrookmansion.org. It'll be on the screen here, and you can. So tell us about this time of year down there. It's always a big time for you guys.
Yeah, the Tenbrook Mansion is always decorated for the holidays. This is our big fundraiser for the year that keeps all of our educational programming going, and upkeep of the Tenbrook Mansion, which was built in 1798. And not everything is a fundraiser. We do have a couple of, I know, like for instance, we've got a children's story hour that is a free event for children. That's the morning of December 22nd. But the majority of the things that we're doing are sort of mini fundraisers. As you said, there are a lot of musical events. Our holiday tea we've been doing for many years now. It's very popular. And you can come, you can see the mansion decorated. We do have a holiday shop, and this year our volunteer shop person is actually going to open the shop on Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So
Very
if
good.
you don't want to, go to the mall that day, come to our shop. You probably won't have to fight the same type of crowds. But it all goes, as I said, everything we raise goes to, keeping the organization going, doing our educational programs like the archaeology camp that you mentioned, and really taking care of the Tenbrook Mansion.
Now, is there one event that's really I know the 12th night dinner looks like the stellar event here.
Well, and yep, you get to sit at the table in the formal dining room, and you're served a 5-course meal for the 12th night dinner, and of course it's limited to 12 people. As I said, the holiday tea is very popular, and the musical events are great. The Christmas traditions is actually, they're going to have some caroling going on, and some traditional Christmas food and things like that.
And then Sinterklaas is going to be
That's
there for
right.
several events, and there is we've gone into this before, but there is an Albany connection with all those holiday Christmas traditions. It started in Albany, so
Yeah.
if people go down to the mansion, they can find out about it.
Yeah.
So I'll just read these really quick in the dates, and then Champagne Preview Party on December 6th at 5:30. That's a Thursday. Holiday Tea, Saturday, December 8th, 1 to 4:30. Christmas Traditions, December 14th, 5:30 to 9. Open House, December 15th, noon to 3. Saratoga Opera. Are they going to be singing Christmas stuff or just doing?
They usually do some opera, some show tunes, and some Christmas
Okay.
stuff, so it's sort of a mix.
So the opera at the Tenbrook Mansion, Sunday, December 16th, 2 to 4:30. Children's Story Hour, Saturday, December 22nd, 10:30 to noon. Holiday Madrigals, Coffee and Desserts, Saturday, December 22nd, 1:30 to 4. And then the 12th night dinner, Saturday, January 5th, 5 to 8. It's all on the website, tenbrookmansion.org. So thank you once again, Wendy, for being here.
Thank you so much.
And Tim, thanks for coming
very-
and telling
thank
us
you very much.
about your students in the Siena, I have it here.
Testimonies of
War. And then are there any other get-togethers between Siena and?
I'm sure there will be. I don't know if we have anything.
And what
planned
before
right now.
you mentioned in the very, very beginning the office of Siena that does this hour. What just tell
Academic
us-
and community
and
engagement.
what is that? What is that?
That's an office on campus that puts community organizations with faculty and really looks for opportunities that are beneficial to both.
Okay.
So it's not simply a kind of one direction relationship.
Well, I know down through the years, other than we've had many Siena professors come to our library for book discussions and new book reviews and stuff like that. We've always had good luck with them, and they've always been great. It wasn't through that office though. I just emailed them and they came. So thanks for coming, and we will see Wendy probably again in the spring. So thanks for watching, getting to know you, and we'll see you next time.